Hey everyone, we are halfway through 2020 and maybe I'm just getting stir crazy from COVID and quarantine, but I wanted to do something kind of special, a mid-year update. I did an end-of-year update at the end of 2019, but I don't really want to wait all the way until the end of 2020 to do another update, so here I am. At the end of 2019, I mentioned one of my goals for the next year and wanted to give a bit of an update on that, as well as look through some of the pictures I've posted so far and point out a couple things that I found interesting about a lot of those pictures. Not everyone, but just a kind of a recap of some of the pictures I posted so far. For my goal that I mentioned at the end of 2019, I wanted to do more with what I had instead of pursue new gear. And I've definitely been making good on that. I haven't bought any new camera gear at all this year. I've even been taking a lot of pictures with my D7100 and my 50mm lens. The D7100 I bought at the end of 2013 and the 50mm I bought way back in 2012. That was the first lens I ever got. Along with my D200, and that combination, the D200 and the D200 and the 50mm lens, was the combination that got me into digital photography to begin with. So it's really been fun to revisit that combination. The 7100 is the same crop sensor camera, or it's the same crop sensor as the D200, just a better crop sensor, but it's still a crop sensor and a 50mm lens. So it's really been fun to revisit that. And I was telling my wife not too long ago that I think I've kind of hit a plateau with camera gear. I've now got the D7100. Well, I still have the D200, but it doesn't really work anymore. So I got the 7100. I got a D750, so I got the full frame. I got a D500, which I got primarily for taking pictures of my kids playing sports. Now that they're much older and involved in some youth sports and things like that. And I've also got my Fuji X100F, which remains my favorite camera, but I don't use it for sports. That's my favorite walk around everyday life type of camera. And I don't know what else I'm missing, although those are kind of famous last words. I'm sure not a month will go by and I'll be thinking, I really could use a Z6 or something else. I don't even know what. But if you were to ask me today, like if I had to retire today from all photography stuff and not buy anymore, I'm pretty happy with what I have. But what I'm not happy with or what I don't want to do is just rest on my laurels in terms of my growth as a photographer. And there's a lot of growth to be done without buying new gear. So that was one of my goals for 2019, and I've definitely been doing that. It's been fun to revisit that basic gear just a little bit. My favorite camera, as I mentioned, is still the X100F, but I've found that I really like revisiting that classic 50mm focal length. There's something really special about not being able to fit a whole lot in the frame. It forces you to choose your subject in an intentional way. You can't fit a whole bunch of stuff in there. So you can't, on my phone, you can just sort of point it at a scene and it'll take a decent snapshot. But you have to be really intentional about that 50mm lens. Of that scene, what's really the important part of that? Which person is the one you want to focus on, or which element, and then get that in the frame. It's a totally different experience than shooting with the phone or shooting with my Fuji X100F or anything with a wider angle lens, because you can't fit much in it. And then because you have that bright aperture, the depth of field that you get when you open it up gives you some really special shots. It's, I've kind of bounced around. When I started Weekly 50, it was only the 50mm lens, and then I slowly got more lenses. I got 35, then 85, and then the 70-200, and I've pretty much got all my focal lengths covered between all those lenses and the Fuji. And so I've kind of bounced around from the 50 to the other lenses to the Fuji, but through it all, the 50 has really been the constant. It's kind of remained there, ever present, and I've really enjoyed making myself revisit that specifically. So what we've been doing a lot during quarantine is going on walks. In fact, every day we go on a walk. My wife and I go on a walk with our kids, and we just walk around the neighborhood. And I have been intentionally taking my D7100 and my 50mm lens, because I really like that combination. And if you have enough light, that D7100 is magic. It is still, even all these years later, a fantastic camera. Higher ISOs, even like 1600, 3200, it's not that great. I guess if you really process the RAW, it's okay. But if you have for a great daylight walk around camera, that D7100 is fantastic. And you combine it with a 50mm lens, Oh my goodness, it's great. And so it's been fun to revisit that intentionally and bring that camera specifically with, that camera and lens when we go on walks, just to see what's going on. And you've probably seen some of those photos on Weekly 50 lately. So with that being said, all of that, I want to take a minute and look through some of the photos that I posted, just mention a couple things about some of them. So here, this is my first photo of the year. I'm pretty sure I shot this with the D7100, just playing around with some backlight a little bit, nothing special. This one, scrolling up, we've got a Magnolia seed pod. Boy, if I had a dime for every photo of Magnolia seed pod, I'd be a rich man. But it's still a fun photo to take, these Magnolia seed pods. They're fun to experiment with because they're so weird looking. Here's another Magnolia seed pod. Same type of shot idea where you've got the subject in the center and everything else out of focus. It's a formula, but it works, and it's really fun to do that with that 50mm lens. This, I don't even know what I was thinking, just playing around with something, I guess. And this one too, just a hand railing. But what's interesting to me is that this one got a lot of comments, and that you always surprise me. You people who read my blog and watch these videos, you always surprise me because the photos that I don't find interesting are often the ones that you do find interesting. So it's really been cool to see how we just react differently to different photos. Moving on, this was just me and my close-up filters, the same filters I've had forever. One of them doesn't even work. You hold it up, the +4 filter, and it kind of rattles a little bit. But I don't know, it gets the job done. I would say it works just fine, but it's a little rattly. But I don't care, it still works. It's fun to take shots with that close-up filter. This was a shot that I took with the D500. I got a couple more here with the D500 because it's fun just to take new gear out and try it out. And you know, that camera, I bought it for a specific purpose, and it's a fantastic camera, but it's overkill. If you just want like a regular camera, go get a D7100 if you just want a nice walk around camera. The D500 is way overkill unless you want sports, action, that sort of thing, which is, I don't know, here I was just playing around with it to see what it could do. Going back, going forward a little more, this is my favorite photo that I posted for calendar year 2020 so far. There's just something unique about this photo. You have to be in a specific place, Columbia, Missouri. You have to have a specific time of year, and you have to have specific gear to get a shot like this. You need a wider lens, but not too wide. You even need wind. This is a 30-second exposure, and there's just enough wind to get this blur. This is unlike any photo I've posted this year, and unlike any photo I'm likely to post until I get back to Columbia in the wintertime again. It's just something cool that it stands out among all the photos I've put up this year because of the bright colors, even the starburst off of this street light here. It's a unique photo, and it's my favorite from calendar year 2020 up to this point. We'll see what happens later on. More pictures. I think this was the D500 again, just playing around with it. Now, incidentally, spoiler alert, I've got a few photos that I'll be posting in the next, week or the next couple weeks or months that I took with the D500, which I am super happy with. I am so proud of how they turned out, but you'll just have to check back for those. For now, you'll have to settle with this picture of a goose standing on one leg. More D500 photos. This one was kind of fun to take. Just a foggy morning. You don't get fog that often where I live, and so it's fun to take shots of foggy mornings when you get them. Nothing special here. This one is it's not a great photo. It's a snapshot, but it's kind of a fun story to tell, so you can go back and listen to that if you really want to. This is, I guess this is late June here, so I'll kind of scroll back into earlier June. More photos just with that D7100 and the 50mm lens. It's a great combination. This is a close-up filter I used to get this shot, and it's not the B photo that I want to take. There's still a B photo that I want to take someday, and I'll get it someday, but it's not this photo. But it's still fun to take. More close-up filter fun. I have taken photos like this many times with these crocuses in my front yard, but it's always a fun photo to take. This is a classic. This composition you've seen many times over the years on Weekly 50. A subject in the center, background and foreground out of focus. It's a classic, but it works every time. Another one here. This one, I don't often take photos with like a message, and I didn't write this message, but I thought this was a fun photo to take because I didn't turn the rock over to find out what this person thought faith was for. I know what faith is for, but for me, but for someone else, you might have something different. So this is a fun photo for me to take because it does have a little bit of a message or a meaning that you could get from it. This horse and the next one down here, it was cool to take these because they were almost literally in my backyard. These are on my block is where these horses live, which happens when you're in a small town in Oklahoma. But we don't get to see snow very often, so it was fun to take these. Incidentally, this is the D500 with the 70-200 lens, and it's not fast action, but it was a great option to get these shots. I don't know that I could have got those with the D7100, mostly because the buffer on the D7100 is so shallow. With the D500, you can just jam that shutter down, take as many photos as you want. The D7100 fills up so fast that it would have been emptying long before I was able to get this shot. So fun to take that with the 500. And here, just playing around with some backlighting. One thing about this photo, this dot here, this bokeh dot, was a passing car, and I remember waiting specifically for a car to go past the background so that I could get this little dot here. And it's really fun when things all come together like that. I think that covers basically everything this year in terms of Weekly 50, all my photos. So it's kind of a fun little trip down memory lane here. Before I go, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who continues to be part of Weekly 50. To all the people who enjoy my pictures, and especially those who leave comments on my blog or on YouTube, thank you so much. I really appreciate having your input, and that's what makes this so much fun for me. Especially your comments. If I ever don't respond to a comment, don't think that I didn't see it. I just have a lot of other things that occupy my time, and sometimes I'll go back and realize, like, I forgot to respond to 10 comments. I need to respond to those to let those people know that I appreciate what they're saying. So thank you. I love those comments. Keep them coming. That's like the lifeblood that keeps me going on Weekly 50, is knowing that you have things to say about this as well. I also want to thank the Beginner Photography Podcast for having me on as a guest earlier this year. It was really fun to be a guest on that show and talk with Raymond, the host of that show, about Weekly 50. So it was cool to see that. I really appreciate all of you people who read the blog and watch these videos. It's so much fun to continue to do this. I've been doing Weekly 50 for over 7 years now, and I'm not stopping anytime soon. And a big part of that is due to you. I won't ask you to like and subscribe like a lot of other YouTube videos, because I still feel weird about doing that. But I do have one small request. If you like Weekly 50, share Weekly 50 with someone that you think might enjoy learning more about photography. If you've enjoyed this, maybe someone you know would enjoy it also. Maybe someone who is not really sure what to do with their camera, or what to do about getting better at photography. Show them Weekly 50, and maybe some of the photos and the explanations and the audio commentary will spark their interest and pique their creativity, and maybe get them on their own photographic journey. That'll do it for this mid-year update. Thank you. God bless you all. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. And remember, get that camera off the shelf, put it in your hands, and start taking pictures.